Hello, Colette. Welcome to the Effortless Being channel. So nice that we could connect.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's yeah, I'm really excited to speak with you.
Yeah, me too. And how this whole thing came about, I had sent you an email because I had seen you on the David Bingham channel. In fact, even before that, um, when I had realized my true nature through David Bingham, I had sent him an email and I was just letting him know, that I had seen him on The Greatest Secret. And, Rhonda Byrne had put out that book, The Greatest Secret. And
Yeah.
I really listened to the audiobook. I really liked the audiobook that was on there because I could hear David's voice. And they had different, non-duality speakers on there, like Rupert Spira and, Muji was on there.
Mm.
And of course, David. And David said, you are the infinite being having a human experience. And when he had said that, everything just, I had clarity. Other things fell away. I was no longer identified with being this separate self. But then I realized my true nature, that I'm the infinite being, just having this human experience, and everyone is the infinite being. So I had sent David an email, like, hey, I know you're the infinite
Thanks.
being. Yeah, it was just very clear to me. And then from the email, he emailed me back and he was like, oh, yeah, you're self-realized or whatever. You understand what this is. And I'm thinking, what's this self-realization thing? And then I had also in the email, he said, "Oh, you're doing some non-duality pointers." I'm like, "What is non-duality? That's where you're at." So then he said to me, he goes, "What I want you to do is I want you to do an interview on Nothing Media with
Oh,
Luciana." So are you familiar with Nothing Media?
no, no.
Okay, so Nothing Media, they're like a non-duality channel, and they're really into like they're more like into like radical non-duality, like Tony
Okay.
Parsons, that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing. And so
yeah.
I did an interview with her, and it went good. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do the interview. So I did it, and then other people started contacting me through there, and then this channel was born. The first video I
Oh,
actually ever did was I was with my family, my wife and my kids out on the beach in North Carolina at the Outer Banks, and because I live in the United
mm.
States. And I was walking along the beach and I just decided to do this video. So I did my first video was prior to consciousness. And I said to David, hey, I was inspired to do this video. And I just put it on YouTube and I sent him the link. And he's like, I like it. It's really good. You're very clear. You're a good
Oh,
communicator. So he's like, hey, do you mind if I send this to a few people? I'm like, yeah, sure. So
oh, wow,
yeah,
that's
so he sent it
great.
out to a few people, and then he got back to me, and
Wow.
he was like, he said, "Oh yeah, I sent it to Rhonda too, Rhonda Byrne, who was the greatest secret." He's like, "Yeah, she really liked it." Like, and so they started sending
Wow.
it around. So then I had this channel, and then I just started, doing these videos, and then he put me in contact. He goes, "You're more like the like this new wave of like awakening where people just spontaneously realize their true nature, something about spontaneity or something, how they do it." I was like,
Hmm.
"Oh, okay." So he put me in touch with David Farmer. Do you know who he is? David Farmer?
Does is it is his channel called something like Effortless Being?
Yes, yes,
Is it called
yes.
similar
Yeah,
or?
effortlessbeing.org. He has like a website, and he
Okay.
also he also has a YouTube channel as well. And so he
Hmm.
put me in touch with
Yeah.
him because he's like he had woken up the same way, like just like you are the infinite being,
Oh,
having so we had
great.
that in common. So we would talk and stuff like that. And then just getting around to how I'm getting to you is then
Mm.
Amanda, he had David Bingham email me, say, hey, well, there's this group like that's meeting because after self-realization, some people like to get together
Yeah.
to talk about it or to
To say
support.
what what's happening?
Yeah, I was like what's going like
What happened?
what is this? Like I didn't know what this was. It was just like,
Yeah.
that was just what I was experiencing and what I had known. To me, it was pretty clear, but they were out of the UK. I guess you're in the UK as well, right? I think
Yeah.
Amanda
Yeah.
was, yeah, and the time
Yeah.
frame was such that yeah, David's like, yeah, it's gonna be like 5 o'clock in the morning where you are when they're doing it.
Ah.
So, and I don't know, I wasn't feel like I wasn't like my intuition wasn't saying, go do that because I kind of just, I don't
Mm.
know, at that point, like after self-realization, I was just happy, like marinating in my beingness.
Yeah,
And
it's a good thing to do. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that was
Cool.
similar for you, like when you had first realized your true nature. Maybe I could start you there and ask you that, like when you first started your true nature, when you first realized your true nature, how was it for
Mm.
you?
Well, I think I had a spontaneous experience. Um, I didn't see through the identification, but what happened for me is I'd been seeking and I'd almost got fed up of seeking. I'd got full up. actually felt almost physically sick. I couldn't watch another video. So I sort of just surrendered the whole thing and went about just doing what I enjoyed. And there was a moment where I just sat down on a sofa outside. It was a garden furniture. And I was just surrendered to the moment because it was just lovely. And I felt the sun on my face. And it was just that moment of surrender that I felt a shift. And what I was used to doing was practicing presence. So I was a sense of a self and with a busy mind. And if that got too much, I think, oh, I'll just be present. So there was an I that was being present. And what happened with this was I recognized, because I was used to doing that subject object, there's somebody that's looking to be present. What it felt like was there was a flip and there was just this, I am the presence. And I was like, oh, I've been looking for presence. I am the presence. And then what was different about what was coming around me was there was no this labeling things. I didn't label things. And I was like, I'm sure I used to label things as I walked. Sure, I used to sort of identify things. And there was also a sense if something happened, if something went wrong, type of thing that I would have thought was something that warranted a lot of mental activity about how I'm going to sort this. This is a nightmare. I've got to do all of
Right.
that sort of suffering, something that's happening. That wasn't there. And I was like, but I remembered what it was like. So I was like, how come I'm just so okay with everything?
Yeah.
How come I'm not judging everything as good and bad? And oh, so I I remember really resonating with David because he just seems so likable, so approachable, so normal, so friendly. So I reached out to David and we couldn't do a video call because my internet was down. So we ended up just doing a phone call. And so what helped for me, I just felt like there was still something stuck here. I felt like there was all this happening. I didn't know really what it was because it sort of reveals itself to itself, doesn't it?
Right. Yep.
So you don't have the mental ability to work it out.
Right.
It's just your direct experience. And so you just word it in however you can. It seems similar to how you were speaking. Um, and then David said to me a few sentences in, he said, there's something that's never changed. And I was like, oh, I know that.
Yeah.
I've always pointed to that. Whenever I had a big birthday, somebody'd say, oh, how do you feel now? I go, I don't feel any different. And then I would always question people. I said, don't you, there's that thing that never changes, that just always feels exactly the same. Doesn't matter how old you get. Like when you were a child, it's always there. And I would just be met with a sea of blank faces. And I'd think, oh, it's just me. But it was so strange. I would bring it up again, not like at birthdays. I'd bring it up and going, well, I don't feel any different. And he said to me, there's something that's never changed. And I was like, yeah, 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 I know that. I know that. He said, well, that's your true nature. I'm like,
Mm.
oh. And it's an immediate sort of backward movement into, oh,
Yeah.
it's a little bit like you're looking for your glasses. Where are
Yeah.
my glasses? Oh, they're on my head. It's the realization. And it literally felt like a movement back. Oh, you mean I don't have to look outside? It's what I am.
You're
Oh my
right. You
goodness.
are this.
Yeah. It's what I am already. It's what's always been there. And that it was just the identification with thoughts of a me that creates this experience of a me. So, yeah, so that's how it unfolded for me. And then there is some sort of deepening in the world of duality for this sense of, there can be a slight reframing of an I for me that
Mhm.
then would go backwards and forwards. And I was in that group, Amanda's group. She started a group and I joined that group. And we were all flipping backwards and forwards. We were all recognized our true nature, found my glasses. Then it's like, oh, I've lost them again. I've lost my true. I never picked up the ticket of I've lost it because I just knew it already so
Right.
well. And of course, we all do because we all are it.
Or are we
It's
are it
our,
already? So what do you think it is that
yes.
that have people going like in and out of it from your coaching? I know you do coaching and stuff like that online and you talk to
Um,
people. Like like what are you seeing with that? Like why do you think people are doing that? Like they're having that,
well,
I
there's
think
this
I
pattern
think
of
I lost it.
behavior.
Yeah.
There's this pattern of behavior, this pattern of thoughts that create an experience.
Mhm.
So I never deny somebody's experience. Yes, there is a backwards and forwards. There is a feeling of in the game, out of the game, awake, asleep. So all of that is happening. So we don't deny any of that. But I tend to, the killer one that I tend to hit them with is who's experiencing it?
There's nobody here.
Because they think there's an I experiencing it. So if they've already seen their true nature and they're going to lost it, who's losing it? Who's coming backwards and forwards? And that was just how it was shown to me. I did this backwards and forwards thing, and then I recognized I stabilized. And I was like, I don't leave.
Yeah, you're
It's
right here.
still some, but there's still some framing of an I. I think it has the tendency to be able to reframe itself subtly.
Mm,
There's still some sort of position. And then I recognized, okay, so it feels like there's two positions. There's the ego identity experience, and then there is the true nature experience. But it feels like there's two positions.
mm,
But it was the recognition, oh, there is this one position, just this one self, that can pattern and shape itself as a separate self experience, but never
right,
become it.
right.
Oh, so
What
that's
a
what I show
realization
people.
that is. Wow.
So I say to people, "Are you experiencing two positions?" They go, "Yeah." I go, "Oh, okay." So that's and there it just can just reframe itself and be identified. But it's only life identifying itself. There's never ever a separate I.
Right. It's
It's
just life.
just yeah, it's
What do
just
you
life.
say about this energetic I? What is that when I say that to you? What comes to mind?
Oh, it's delicious to say I. There's it's very different to the separate self I, the one that wants to get a foot in the world, the one that wants to make a mark on this, the one that wants to have an opinion and be right and control and just have a position, just to be framed, just to be able to, I am this. Whereas this just I. For me now, I is just this universal eye. It's like this flower opens up. It's just an eye, a universal eye.
Love that.
It's delicious. It's like, there's just a fullness and a wholeness and a completeness to the hugeness of this eye, this one eye.
I love how you describe that. How would you
Oh,
speak to unity consciousness? What maybe you could say something about that.
yeah, all these things get revealed to you, really. I remember David talking about unity consciousness. I was like, sure about that. What even is that?
Yeah.
And I never go to mental activity to work out anything. And that was pretty much through my life. I was always using what David would point to as the wisdom body, but I just didn't recognize it was just a natural thing for me to do. So even just consciousness, I was like, what even is consciousness without going to concepts, labels, and ideas, anything we've ever learned? And so I would drop, I call it dropping. There's this sense of being up in your head and then dropping into being and
Mm,
opening up
I like that.
to just the pure potential of the moment. What's actually here? So it seems as if, the answer sort of comes for me. There's just this, it's just the life just offers itself, the answer that for me, I just got consciousness as a movement. I was like, oh, okay. So then I just leave it there.
Mhm.
I don't go to mental activity to try and work that out, try and frame it. I know I did hear something that Nisargadatta said, and I thought, oh, that's similar to how it feels to me. So I tend to go to the felt sense.
The felt
Um,
sense.
that that's my dominant thing, the felt sense. So I feel into it. What does it feel? What is consciousness? How does that feel? What's my direct experience? And it was just this movement, and it's just become more and more apparent that it's the shaping and patterning, this movement of consciousness that creates all of this. And this is how I'm expressing it. This is how I see it. I'm not saying I'm right, but this is my direct experience. That's all I can express.
Right.
So so the unity consciousness, feel into that. So it's this just sense, any sense of this dancing, any sense of this dancing, because we can get really animated and excited. And, I felt the excitement about coming on today. I thought, oh, that's so interesting. There's this excitement about coming on. But there's also this sense that we can just drop down, that dancing can just
Settle,
level
right?
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And you
there's
just
just that
settle,
sense
melt
of
into
being.
like beingness, and then flow, and everything's whole inside of you, the permanent consciousness. It's almost like a container of infinite being is here, where everything but no thing. How does that speak to you when I say that?
Everything and nothing.
Yes.
Okay. So that sense of dropping down to just being.
Mm,
And then, okay, sometimes, okay, so we can describe it in this way. So there's this sense, the three ways we can look at it. There's this I am Colette, Rob, anybody that's watching, the
right.
story of me. And that's all there, that's all playing out. But it's
Hmm.
life that's playing the role,
Right.
rather than the separate self I. So that's all fine, that's all shaping and patterning. And then there's this sense of just I amness. And I would say that's more like effortless being.
Uh,
We just are. We just am. Just just being here now. And then there's that chance to see that even that I am is a very subtle position in the world of duality. And I didn't get that. I somehow felt like effortless being wasn't in the world of duality. So it does reveal itself, you know. So this sense of I am is in the world, is the one thing appearing in the world as this I amness, just being, prior to shaping and patterning as a, you know, just being. And then everything, all of that happens. So, but there's this sense that even the I am can dissolve.
mm,
So there's this sense that when we don't frame that I am, when we just feel into the sense of what's prior to the rising up of an I am,
mm,
what's at the depth of the core or the fundamental self.
mm.
And there's a really great way of doing it, if you don't mind me
No, I'd
uh,
love to hear it.
sharing.
I'd love it.
So just to feel into that no thing. So, and it's a fairly recent way I've been doing it, and you may know this anyway, but I sort of missed this and I picked it up recently, and people really enjoy it. So quite often we've got this going backwards and forwards, and they go, yeah, but I keep, I've got it and I've lost it, or I've got a busy mind. So there's a lot of I thoughts. And so, obviously, if we say, well, who's experiencing this? Oh, I know there's no I. So, that's still almost the I talking, it's still going to concepts and ideas. So let's have a little look if we close our eyes. In absolute reality, without going to concepts, thoughts, and ideas, can we find this I that's got getting lost in thought? So we just look for an I without going to concepts, thoughts, and ideas. And I would offer that there's just this space. There's just this blank space, maybe a dark, inky black space. So we can't actually find an I. But then we've got chance. So we're focusing on in looking in this inky black space. Can we just turn towards what's looking? And then there's even chance for the looker to dissolve. And maybe this sense of dissipating. It's just spaciousness. And this just can't be named, can't be grasped, can't be pinned down, can't be labeled. And you could say, if we wanted to put a pointer, that it's just pure being, no thing. Well, I would say that's prior to manifestation. There's some sense of just dissolving completely, dissipate. You can't even start to say, well, it's spaciousness. You can't, you really can't, can you? It's like
No,
everything just drops away.
it's just like the silent beingness, just you just melt into it, and there's this deep peace that's there that's unspeakable.
Yeah, and even the thoughts are just not even
Yeah,
just not
it's
in
not
the
there.
game at
No, it's
all.
not there. It's just
No.
that. And I always say to people, like when I'm talking about this, is this consciousness, this beingness, this sense of aliveness that's here when we ask it, like, can it get sick? They automatically say no. Can it die? No. They automatically there's like a almost like their intuition like knows it that this is the case. I just think it's amazing when I invite people to actually look as you were doing, turning around and looking at that, which is looking out. And when they place their attention on it and they self-inquire about, well, what is this? What is this sense of being, this sense of aliveness that's here?
Mm.
Does it
Without
have,
going to thoughts and labels and without going to mental
without
activity,
going to mental,
just
just,
directly experiencing it.
yes, your direct experience. What is it for you? Not what someone's telling you, not the intellectual knowledge, but
Yeah, yeah,
what is your
just the
direct
felt.
experience? The real, like, what's really here? What's really here, right now? What do you really know for sure? Everyone
Really
knows that
just
they exist, that
yeah.
they exist, that there's awareness here. But what is it that this awareness? It's almost like it was a case of mistaken identity for me. It's like I labeled that this sense of beingness, this sense of aliveness, was called Rob with the story, and I had always labeled it Rob. But what I realized is that when David said, "You're the infinite being," having a human experience, I had that direct experience of seeing through that separate Rob. Like this that was called that was I was like, no, it's not. This is the infinite being. I'm just having this human experience. So I saw through that separate eye and realized, came back and said, this is everything here.
Mm, mm.
This is this beingness is what you are, not this
Would you say
separate.
that you were ripe at that point? It's an interesting point, isn't it? Because I'd heard that pointer before,
Oh, you did.
um, and
Yeah, I
it
guess leading
really
up
had
to
no.
that, I had listened to Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. I
Yeah,
think you
me
had mentioned it
too.
in some of your
Yeah,
interviews.
yeah,
That was my first realization when Eckhart, said there can't be two of me here. Like there's a voice in your head is not your voice. There's something that's aware of it. So, which is the true? And so when he had said that, and I'm like, wait a second, this voice in my head isn't me. Are you? Because I had thought it
yeah.
was the whole time.
Yes,
Like
me
this
too.
whole, I was like a commentary, like a football commentator,
Yeah,
in your head telling you all these things. And he said, that's not, I said, wait a second, that's not me. So some space opened up and I was like, wait a second. So I could see the thoughts coming in and the mind or the thoughts, whatever you want to call it. There's no mind because I can't really, like, even when I looked for a mind, I couldn't see it. I see thoughts arising in this space of beingness that I am, but I could see the thoughts and it was talking. It was like, and I was personalizing it, saying it was applying
yeah,
to me,
yeah,
this
yeah,
separate I. And then I looked for the separate I. There's no separate I here. So I'm like, it's not talking to a me. There's no me here. So what is this voice and what is it saying? Because everything the voice was saying, a lot of things was saying, it would be like, oh, you're not good enough, or you can't do that, like a lot of limitation.
yeah.
And that
Conditioning.
didn't sit right with me because it's like almost like your intuition knows, hey, you're the infinite being, you're whole, you're complete.
Mm,
There's peace here, life, there's more to life than just what that mind is telling you, what those thoughts are telling you. There has to be more to life than that, because it
mm.
didn't sit right with me. And so that was what made me question it. Like, so when Eckhart had said that in his book, um, I kind of realized that was the first realization of me. Wait, I'm not my thoughts. The one that's aware of the thoughts.
That was my realization
You
with
saw
his
that
book.
too?
I was just like,
Yeah.
oh,
That was a big one.
oh. And then I went and cleaned up all my thoughts.
Oh,
So
so you did Byron
I
Katie,
did
right?
I did
The
the
Byron.
Baron Katie and I
Yeah.
cleaned up all my thoughts, which I think was valid. Obviously, there was a separate self involved in that. There was identification with the thoughts, but in cleaning them up, it allowed for them not to be so sticky.
Do
To
you
be,
think
well, I
like
know.
cleaning up the thoughts that kind of keeps you in individuality, like as a separate
I
self? Like
mean, it
it's almost like
could
you're doing
do.
it from you're looking at it
It
from the
depends on
person.
how invested you are.
Okay.
If you were invested in, I've got all these thoughts and I've got to get rid of them, and I would never. I always point to people to do the inquiry from being.
Yeah, I
So
would say
get them to
who is
be.
the I that has these thoughts that has to clean it up? I would question that.
But that was my journey prior
Yeah.
to the recognition.
Right.
And in a way, it helped because the my thoughts weren't so crazy.
Hmm.
I got chance to see, well, actually, when I don't think and believe that thought, how do I feel? Well, I'm completely free.
Yeah.
So a bit like Sailor Bob, I think you've said it before, what's wrong with this moment if you don't think about it? That's
Yeah.
what it
What is
feels
wrong
like.
with this moment?
It's
There's
such
nothing
a,
wrong.
it's such a,
Everything's fine. There are no problems. There's no problems here. It's like heaven on earth, paradise earth, like right here. It's only when you go to the
that's very
mind.
hard for somebody who's identified.
I know. Yeah. And that's why I say, like, somebody watching this, they'll be looking like, what are they talking? Like, because I remember being there too. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I was there,
So
so I can
because
totally
it is
relate.
a tr it is an experience that they're having,
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
but who is having it?
Yeah. The nobody was having the experience
Yeah, but they don't know that at that point. Yeah.
because they haven't
It
seen
is the
through it.
sort of walk home. For me, it felt like a walk home to
Yeah.
recognize, oh, so because there can be a subtle reframing of I woke up.
Mm.
There's an awakening and then there's a story I woke up and this is what happened to me. And there can be a subtle reframing of an I there, I feel.
Yeah.
So there's this I that woke up, and then you go, hang on a minute. And then there's this I that's losing it, falling asleep, waking up. Um, and I remember it just all going, hang on a minute. Where am I going? There's nowhere to go. This backwards and
It's
forwards,
funny
there's
when you
nowhere
think
to
about it.
go.
Yeah, it's
There's
funny.
just space.
Yeah.
Where am I going? Who's going? And
Yeah.
so it's almost like you have these stepping stones that can be valid. And I think they talk about how, the practice isn't ready until the practicer disappears.
Right.
So for me, I felt like I had these stepping stones home, the barring, all of these things to realize I was already home. I
Yeah.
never left.
All those years of seeking and doing all
Yeah,
those things,
yeah.
from seeking to realization to realize. How about your family? How are they responding to this?
Yeah, they're fine. I think my children at the very beginning, I was so blissed out. We went on family holiday straight after talking to David, and they tried everything. They're around 17 and 20, I think, at that point. So they
Mhm.
would try everything to try and trigger me because that's what you do to mum on a holiday. Let's wind her up. Let's tell her we're going to get drunk. Let's tell her we're going to, I don't know. So, and it just wasn't triggered at all, and they couldn't get it. To the fact that they were running at me and shaking me and wanting me to be annoyed. They were just saying, well, how far can we push her? And I was fine. But they did used to, if there was anything I ever picked up, they go, oh, well, who's suffering now?
Is that what they said?
Yeah.
I love it. Get me the
So
kids
it
on the
was,
phone. I want to talk to the kids. Let's interview the kids. Give me some
yeah.
stories.
So it's been really interesting. And every now and again, my oldest one will go, okay, just give me 4 minutes on what you do. Just a little few, I don't want a whole big lecture, just a little bit. Just if he's got a problem, he's like, okay, you can just tell me in 4 minutes. I'll just give you like just
Yeah.
your elevator pitch, mum. I don't need too much. Because nobody wants to be fixed, changed, or improved, do they?
No, and
We
sometimes
think
that
they do
it
when we're,
feels, yeah, it feels like it's coming from the person. Like if you're saying, I want to fix this person, like
yeah,
like the infinite being, is all allowing, like everything's
because
allowed.
it's
We
not
love you
it's
just as you are.
fundamentally
Yeah,
it's untouched by the game. It knows everybody's fundamentally untouched by all of this shaping and patterning
right.
because it never becomes any of this. So
Yeah,
fundamentally, everybody's untouched, but that is not to deny. That there is all of this shaping and patterning, and people are, believing that it's them that's suffering, and and it's painful for them, and so that's never to negate, sorry, the experience that people are having. But it is just such an interesting,
yeah, like the
I just,
kosher. I like how David does the koshas, like the
yeah, that's
five
brilliant.
bodies or the experiences that you can have, that the infinite being can. It's never touched by anyone, no matter what body they're going into. And of course, you have the bliss body, you have, the body of wisdom or effortless being, and then, you can go to the mental body, the emotional body, then the physical body. Of course, the
Mm.
physical, mental, and emotional bodies, that's, in the world of duality, unity consciousness, the oneness. is more in the body of wisdom,
It's
and
closer. Yeah, it's
yeah, it's
closer
closer
to
to the
the
bliss,
absolute.
the
But everybody's
attribute.
experiencing those.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
they're in and out.
experiencing those and I didn't realize. And even I did an interview with David afterwards,
Okay.
and he said, "Oh, but Colette, you've been in the body of bliss and the body of wisdom." And I sort of recognized that I had always gone to the body to get an answer all the way
Oh,
through my life. But I was like, I'm not sure whether I've been in the body of bliss. But I look back now and I was, because I do take everything quite lightly all the way through my life. I'm one of those that doesn't dwell on things. Yeah, I'm not saying I didn't suffer and I didn't chew on things, but I was always quite easygoing and okay with things, you know.
so life was more like playful for you. And I think after self-realization, I see a lot that too. Like people are more playful with life, like viewing it like as a virtual reality game or you're in a movie. You know, it's a more
Mhm.
playful lightness to it. Would you
It
say?
is when you know
Yeah. Yeah.
you're untouched by
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
Right. That's a whole
Yeah,
different, there's a piece of
yeah.
knowing that,
It's a whole different thing.
like a freedom, like a true
Yeah.
freedom. Like there's
I
a
do this
freedom.
little thing and I've never done it online before. I'm going to share it with you.
Yeah.
It's
Why
quite
not?
funny. I'm just putting a blank up my knee. But I do this way of showing people. It's quite a funny way. I've never embarrassed myself online before doing it. But there's, we could see that we're the infinite being. And then there's this game of duality through this little hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So consciousness has created this game for itself.
Mhm.
The absolute's created a game through consciousness. And so consciousness is shaping and patterning in here, the world of duality. But it's the one thing that's creating it all. Yeah.
Right.
So you put your head up, and this is fine. Oh, look, that's nice. So this is what you were just pointing to. This is very
Yeah.
light.
Yeah.
Oh, this
Yeah.
is fun. We can just pop this virtual reality thing and then take it off and go.
Yeah.
We know we're the infinite being looking through the hole. So it's quite good fun. And then there's just that stage where you're a bit more, oh, hang on a minute. I'm
Yeah. You're
picking up
really in it.
thoughts here. You're slightly in. You're picking up thoughts. And you're like, oh, why am I picking up thoughts? You've got some sense. You've recognized the truth, but you're like, why am I still picking up thoughts? Hang on, slightly identified. And then there's that when you're completely in the game,
Yeah.
going, where's my true nature? What? This
Yeah.
life is awful. You all need to control yourselves. I hate this game. I hate my life.
Well, it was very good. You should be an actor in a movie the way you were doing that. You didn't embarrass yourself. It was a very good illustration. It reminds you like when I'm watching TV sometimes, like I'll be watching like a scary movie or something. And when I'm watching the movie, I feel like I'm really identified with the character in the movie. I can actually feel the emotions of it all
Yeah.
happening. Like you're in it. So and it feels very similar to that when you're watching a movie. You're feeling everything, you're
Drawn
identifying with
in.
the and then you just say, wait a minute, and you wake up and
Yeah.
you're like, wait a second,
Is
I'm
this a
not in the
television
movie.
screen or yeah.
Like similar to you, like say when you're pressing up, you're looking in, but you're always remaining as the infinite being, but you're kind of just peering in, and then you come back and it's like, ah, it's just like a
I
resting
also
back.
describe it in another way. So a bit like David says about the roller coaster ride, you're
Yeah,
picking
take
up
the tickets
tickets.
on the ride. Yeah.
So there's three stages I describe it as. The first one is you pick up a ticket and you're in it and you're just in it. You've got no idea of your true nature, a bit like that. You're completely in the game, completely lost at the whole thing, and it's awful. And it spits you out. You're like, oh my goodness, my mind. I was so, even if you not recognize your true nature, people will say, my mind's driving me mad today. So they're sort of spat out of the game of the. So then the next ticket is you buy the ticket but you're awake going, what am I doing? You get on the roller coaster, you're going down. So it's a bit like you're having a conversation with somebody and you're watching the words come out your mouth, the argument or the
Yeah.
same conditioned response you've had to them. You can't get off the roller coaster.
Right.
So you're awake on the roller coaster going, oh
I'm
my goodness,
awake.
why am I playing the game of duality wide awake?
That's
And then the
funny.
third time you get offered a ticket and you just think, nah, because you don't believe in the one picking up the tickets anymore.
Right. Like,
There's no I.
it's almost
So
like looking at it like Santa, like I used to tell my kids about Santa Claus and my mom and dad told me about Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy. But then once you see through it, it's like, oh, okay, the gig's up. Like I can see through it. It's almost like when these thoughts are trying to get me to identify. I'm like, I know, I've seen through this. It's
yeah,
almost like
yeah.
that's what it feels like in my direct
Yes, it does.
experience.
Yeah, not that again. Yeah.
Yeah, not that again. So I would say prior to self-realization, what were you like before you had the realization? How were you?
Well, obviously I could suffer.
Mhm.
Um, I'm just feeling into it.
Hmm.
Just looking for it really because there's a lot of air there now.
So there was suffering that you
Oh
did
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah. So there was contracted, yeah, yeah. There was identification, there was suffering. But my suffering tended to be, I knew it wasn't right because it was over really little things. And I'm like, why am I suffering over little things? This isn't right.
right.
Like we're not meant to suffer. And even this push and pull that we get, I felt like that was almost waking me up, the push and
Mm.
pull. The resistance to life is almost like a wake up. Wake up, you're dreaming.
Yeah. I
Life
like
waking itself up. Um, so I just knew there was something not right with it all because I shouldn't suffer this much and I shouldn't keep picking something up and suffering it, seeing through it and dropping it, just as a not knowing anything really, just maybe using the Baron Katie thing, but it kept rising up and keep like there's something not right about this. Shouldn't be suffering like this over small things. Understandably over something big, but small things that just doesn't add up. So yeah, I mean there was identification, there was suffering, there was picking up things, dropping them, picking them back up again. I call it chewing on it. Chew
chewing.
on a bone and then you've had enough, you put it down, then you go, oh, I'm chewing on it again. Oh, how do I pick that up again?
So if
But it,
people watching this, like they may be going through suffering of some sort, and you may have, I'm sure you've talked to people, that you coach and stuff like that. What do you say to them?
if they're suffering,
Yes.
well, I would just, we were talking about unity consciousness. I would just really just be with them, just have that compassion for what's actually happening for them, because it is an experience. And that sense that there's no agenda here, I don't need to fix, change, or improve them. And I can't say that was there at the beginning,
Mm.
but just to be completely open to how they're shaping and patterning, to be with them and to, and then I guess I mean, it's hard. I just do it spontaneously. I don't really have a method. It's everybody's different because you know, so it's feeding it. Oh, so, okay. So what's coming now is that I tend to recognize where somebody's in their head.
Hmm.
So I just point out, I mean, David does it, but he just does it in a different way. From day one, the first time I was ever on a call, I could recognize where somebody was in their body.
Oh,
And if they're
cool.
concentrated in the head, I can't even say how I do it. It's just seen.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's the eyes going up, but it also I can see it pinching in their face. And sometimes I say to them, so I'll say to them, so what happens is that it's the thoughts that are creating the suffering. Yes, the situation is the situation, absolutely. But can we see that it's the thoughts that so I just point out that when they're in their head, they're believing the thoughts, and I get them to drop. I point to direct experience. And I
Hmm.
also tend to take them to being. That's what I do. I'm just recognizing that now. I tend to take them to being
Like that.
because if somebody's in their head and they're suffering, they're not going to get this in their head because they're in the mind is already in the world of duality, and it doesn't get because it's a direct experience. So it's not a mental. It's going to come up with concepts and ideas, and what we are is not a concept or an idea. So I tend to get them to, and I point to this quite a lot in my videos, that I get them to open their focus because I feel it's about attention. It's where your attention is. Your attention is on thoughts, feelings, and emotions. There is a me here and it's awful and I don't like it. Or if we can open up, we've got a chance to say, hang on a minute. So we open the focus. There's a broader view. So the
Yes.
thoughts might still be coming, but they're over here. And then I point to this, you know what, where I got this from?
Where?
From my recognition from the flip that I
Oh.
had.
Mhm.
I copy how that felt in the body. So it was an opening of the focus. It was a resting back and down. So I talk about how the separate self is grasping. It's in lack. So it wants to get something. If I just get this, I'll feel better. If I just get this. So I talk about opening up and resting back in the body. So we're
Mhm.
unplugging from that grasping. And then I just, one of the very first things I did was one of the first videos was to say, so we just go from the head and we just go down, down, down.
That's true.
And then I get them to focus on the contact points of the body in the chair.
Mm.
So their attention now is not in the thoughts, they're on, so it's directly experiencing the contact points of the body in the chair. So I say to them, so we don't go to concepts and thoughts and ideas about the contact points. We just directly experience them. So our attention is on the contact points. And then I might say, so there's an awareness of the contact point.
Mm.
And then I would point to, we can take away the labels, body and chair, and we can just say there is an awareness of sensations. So again, we're just staying with the direct experience of those sensations. We're not adding anything to it, no commentary. And then we can peel away, even peel away sensations. And what are we left with without going to concepts, thoughts, and ideas? So it's just feeling into that spacious. We peeled away all the labels.
Mhm.
And then I get to explore the inside and the outside, and I get them to see that there's no boundary to the body, and then that the spaciousness is infinite. So we
Mm.
do all of this exploration, and then I do the inquiry. Then I say, okay, and I quite often write down a lot of the main things.
Okay.
And then when I look at the piece of paper, I just score a couple of them. It just comes naturally. I just score a couple that jump out. And then I use those to say, okay, so earlier we had this very strong statement that there was this was happening and da, 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 da. Can we find that one here now? And
Mm.
they're like, oh, no, I can't find
It's
that.
not there.
So I said, okay, so that gives us a chance to see. We don't deny that that was all happening, but we can't find who it was happening to. So
Sure.
it's just this gentle exploration. And it's them recognizing it for themselves. Because it doesn't matter what I say, they've
Right.
got to see it for themselves. Yeah.
The direct experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you finding, how about people with identifying with the body? Like sometimes, like we talked about earlier, like how with Eckhart, like a lot of people can see, the space between witnessing the thoughts, but then people tend to feel like there's still this body. How are you,
Mm,
how do you handle that? Like how are you directing that or coaching to that? If somebody feels like so identified with the body, like I know what you're saying, Colette, I can see the thoughts coming, but I still feel like there's this beingness here
mm.
behind the
Yeah, with this
eyes.
separate self. Yeah.
Yeah,
So again, I just feel into it for the answer.
yeah. That's a good way to do it. Just feel into it. Because anything you're aware, I mean, logically, a lot of people, like intellectually, a lot of people know, that, if I'm aware of something, I'm not that. But I love the way that you do the experiential, experiencing it by pointing to it. And those pointers is really what's going to help the people,
So what's
see through that.
coming? So what's coming is this sense of we contract down into this sense of self as a contraction, but actually we've got a chance to see that it's actually we are the space in which the contraction is appearing, so we can feel into the spaciousness. And when I was exploring earlier, what I tend to do is I tend to say to them, so there's when we're, so if anybody's now want to do this again, we've got to make sure we drop down into being. We're not in the head. We're not trying to work anything out. It's as if we've done this big long journey home. Switch the car engine off. We don't have to gather anything. We're just in that moment of where we've already done the journey. So there's nothing to get. We're just having a look at what's here. We're not trying to grasp why I'm not the body. We're just directly experiencing what's here when we don't grasp. So already we're pointing to not grasping, not needing to get anything. And then I explore there's an area inside of the body, just this area simply inside of the body. And then there's an area outside of the body. So I get them to directly experience both areas, just feeling into the area inside and then feeling into the area outside without labels, thoughts or concepts, ideas. But then can we actually find where the area inside and the area outside meet? And 99.9% of people can't find a boundary. So they go, no. I say it's just a yes or no answer. And if they can find a boundary, I say, okay, that's interesting. Let's have a little look at that boundary. And then we just explore the boundary and it tends to dissipate when I inquire a bit further. So once they've recognized there's just this spaciousness, I then take them further and further. Do you end at the walls or do you just keep, in direct experience? there's just this spaciousness, and there's thoughts appearing, sounds, sensations, even, what you could call the physical body. Once we peeled away the labels, it's just a lot more spacious. There's lots more air there. It's only when we go to concept labels of skin and hair and a me that it all starts to contract down. It's almost as if there is just this spaciousness, and what we're doing is applying everything to this spaciousness, creating
Yeah.
creating a sense of a me with concepts, thoughts, and ideas, and then yes, but we're just confining it. And it's all just an exploration. It's just how it can dance. There's no right or wrong.
I like how you did that. So say something about creativity, operating from effortless being, creativity. Have you
Mm.
seen anything with that
For other people or for myself
for
or
yourself?
um,
Because I noticed you're
well,
very
I
active. You're
write
very
a
active
lot.
with yeah, go ahead.
I write a lot, but I just let it. I just write in my phone in notes, and occasionally I'll throw something up.
Mhm.
But I'm not really attached to any of it, so
Mhm.
um, it's just what's flowing. I feel if I can get it out, then there's more space for more to come. So it's a matter of just expressing. Um, creative. It seems, there's just spontaneous. So even just my YouTube channel was a spontaneous sharing. I
Yeah,
had all
talk about that.
thoughts.
Yeah, talk about that.
Well,
Because previous to that, were you the type of person that would get on YouTube
no,
and express?
I would
So
never have gone on
what
YouTube.
is driving all the, like I see you're very
Yeah.
active on social media. So what's really driving, you're really talking a lot about
Yeah,
this.
well,
So what is it?
it's been an interesting journey because there was the spontaneous sharing. Um, and I think it was driven from that, oh my goodness, I was suffering so much and now I'm free. Let me just share it with everybody else.
Yeah, that's how I felt. Yeah.
So I,
Yeah.
so I think my first one was I talked about how I walked home and how I used all I ever did was talk about, and all I ever do really is talk about my direct experience. So I talked about how I used Byron Katie, and I showed that method. I
Hmm.
think that might have been one of my first, because I was thinking, how did I get here now? I'm not suffering. And so I sort of talked about that. I didn't have enough knowledge to realize that, it's not to identify with that, it's to do it, but to do it from being.
Hmm.
Um, so I just shared, okay. So there was just this spontaneous, it was really weird. There was just this spontaneous sitting down and expressing. And I remember once I was quite late to go to yoga and I sat down. I was like, what am I doing? I was like, oh, I'm
Funny.
doing a video, am I? So there's these
Yeah.
thoughts of what am I doing? And I just did a video and I was thinking, I'm going to be really late for yoga. And I was like, okay, this needs to be said. So I just learned to, and it was a little bit of a help from Amanda actually, because she threw me in the deep end on a
Love
retreat
it.
she wanted to organize.
He's great.
And she said, will you do it with me? And I said, well, I don't know what I could say because I'd not done any expressing. So I said, well, I can just sit in the background and be in being. Because all I just, at that point, I'd spoken to David and I am presence. I could just, and I went on those meetings with Amanda and there'd be 20 people and I'd just be sat in the background going, oh, just blissed out.
I remember you
And
saying like in
occasionally,
those meetings you would see yourself and everybody like, "Ooh, that's me, that's me."
oh God, it's so nice. I remember the first time seeing that. I
Yeah.
saw home, home,
Oh,
home, 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 home. I'm home. Look,
that's
I'm
awesome.
home. It was so, so gorgeous. Um, I don't know where we were, but we were talking about something. It's gone. It's all gone,
Talking
all
about
gone.
the meetings with
The meetings.
Amanda, and then you starting your YouTube
Oh
channel.
yes,
I was
that was
asking you
it.
about
Thank you.
how you like, was that your personality? And you were like, no, it was just more like spontaneous that you started this, getting
Yeah.
active on and wanting to share this or something.
Yes, Amanda invited me to do a retreat thing with her to just share this for people who were seeking. And
Mm.
of course, I was saying, oh, I don't know what I'd say, and, I don't know. And then she said, "You'll be fine, you'll be fine." And so I said, "Well, I can only talk about what I know." And she said, "Well, that's it. That's all you've got to do." She was so much more confident than me. So, so luckily, she was really busy, and she said, "Oh, you just organize it, Colette." So I was like. I knew not to have an agenda. That was a couple of words I got after self-realization, the no agenda. And I know absolutely nothing. And they've served me very well. This sense of if I think I know something and I can do that, it gets very contracted and very an agenda based. So when I was trying to write the course, I was like, no, it's not working. I could feel the contraction. And then
Uh,
David points to that, doesn't he? He says, if you're
yes.
getting any of that contraction.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's not working. And I said to Amanda, look, I could have tell you, I've probably tried about 3 times. It's not working. I
Yeah.
don't want to go to contraction. She
Yeah.
said, yeah, I know what you mean. I've got exactly the same. She said, just do whatever you did. So I was like, oh, okay. So I just wrote 7 steps to freedom, I think we called it. I just
Ah,
broke down the steps to awakening for me. So we went along with that. So it was her course, and then she got me to write it. It was so funny. She was super busy.
yeah.
She,
Yeah.
she works with people with mental health. She's a really full on, and I was, still in bliss. And she's like, "You get on with it,
You're
Colette."
still blissed out.
Yeah. So I did that. And then I said, I can't fill it in, all the padding. If you were somebody
Yeah.
who's going to write a course and fill it all in, I was like, it's just not coming. And Amanda said, no, it'll be fine, Colette. We'll just do it. She was so confident that you just do it.
Yeah.
So she was, great for me, really. So we sat down on the first day. I couldn't even retain the line that the subject. I had to keep picking it up and reading
Pick
it
it
and
up,
then
read it.
speak.
Yeah.
And it was to have that confidence
Oh,
to just dropping into it now, to be in being and to allow the words just to come out with no mental overlay. And
right.
it was so valuable because you just have to surrender. And a lot of this whole journey is about surrendering. You
Yes.
surrender any agenda and you just rest in being and just allow the words to come out. So we'd start with the thing. And the people on the course loved it. They said it's like a chat show. We feel like we're just, and they would tell us what we were supposed to be talking about. I
Yeah.
was like,
Let it all.
because
Take
I
your
was like,
time.
what lesson are we on? They would tell us, and then we'd just speak.
Yeah.
It was just spontaneous. It was such a crash course
It's
in
almost like you're
picking,
holding the space for them, and then effortless being is just flowing
yeah,
through it
speaking through.
and doing it all. Yeah, just kind of without any agenda or anything, without the separate eye. It would just flow, and that's where creativity comes from, and comes from that effortless being, just doing it all. It's
Mm.
beautiful. So
Mm.
then from there, you created
So
your
that
own YouTube channel
so
from.
that's the YouTube channel because I'd
Yeah.
learned that, I'd honed that skill on those
Yeah.
5 days. We
Yeah.
did a we fell it we did a 5 day retreat just speaking.
Wow, that's
And we
awesome.
did I said, well, I can do I knew I could do the meditations because that's, like I was doing, everything
Yeah,
becomes a
you're
thing.
good. Yeah, you're
I
good at
never
point.
meditated myself
No,
ever.
that's
No,
great. Yeah.
because I used to transcend the body. I used to completely transcend, go off to space, but like in space with like some nebulous, I'd be like, okay, no, this is too much for me. Uh, and
Mm,
and I also felt it wasn't helping what I felt like I was just looking for truth. I
mm.
just want the truth. And that was just a bit of a distraction to do that. So I think I went to 3 meditation classes and thought, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, I obviously just went off seeking it, although I never knew I was a seeker, which is quite funny. Um, so the YouTube channel came about from that, I think, just expressing, just like you say, I'm feeling into it now, just allowing the space to speak, just being, allowing the words to just vibrate. I can really
Mhm.
feel it now.
Mhm.
It's wherever we put our attention. Like if I put my attention on being, even my voice drops.
Mm.
No sense of rising up. It's just allowing whatever, then there's more space between the words and it's the easiest thing in the world for me to do.
Awesome.
If David was to say effortless being,
Yeah.
what just to rest in being and speak from being is just delicious for me.
Mhm.
I absolutely love it. And to explore this spaciousness and to feel into that and to the dance of the whole thing of no thing, this edge, this edge of where no thing becomes everything. And I thought it might be interesting to explore that with you. And it's only just come up now. It's interesting how it just spontaneously comes up. Because I recognize that you have had some sort of background of the manifesting.
Creating your own
The
reality kind of thing.
Yeah, that you were, um, I think you
Thoughts
said
turn to things.
you've the Esther Hicks. You've been on the cruise ships. You've done,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I still
you've
do
done
that.
stuff.
I go on the I go on the cruise ships, and then what I do is I meet with people, and like I'm going on one next Friday. It's out of Fort Lauderdale. I get on Celebrity Cruise, and then we're going to a couple different islands like Dominican Republic, all the Southern Caribbean. Now, what I do is ahead of time I meet people on those ships, and then we do this like what we're doing, like one-on-one conversations
Oh,
about
wow.
self-realization.
Yeah.
I remember when I first was telling David about that. I think it was like 2 years ago, and then he responded like cruising and realization, or really, it's like what a cool combination. You get to travel and talk to people. And I said, well, you can come with me, like why don't you come? He goes, well, he had things going on with his mom, but he
Yeah.
was like, yeah, maybe one of these days, I'll I'll come and do it. But it's
Oh,
kind of
that would be
fun.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe I'll get him to come on one of these times. But yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the way I set up now because I
How
just
does
find it.
that, because obviously a lot of people manifest, it's the separate self. There's not enough, they're in lack, they want to manifest. They feel
Yeah,
like they
yeah.
need something. So
Yeah, basically, yeah,
how does that work
basically,
for you?
well, previous to self-realization, I was going, on those cruises. So, I met a lot of friends there and stuff like that. And then they heard, about my, I would talk about self-realization
Yeah.
and stuff like that with them. People with manifesting in the law of attraction community, a lot of them are they're trying to manifest from lack because they believe like they're this separate self. I
Yeah.
need to have like the
Yeah.
perfect job. I have to have the money, the relationship. So they're coming from
Yeah,
that
because they're
space.
looking outside.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
looking outside instead of, realizing, that they're already whole and complete because they just haven't identified with their true nature as being the infinite being. But it's a really good bridge because then, those particular people, they're kind of open to hearing about self-realization,
Mm.
you know. So I was able to, a lot from that community have realized their true nature, just by, you know, bridging it from the law of attraction, and seeing
Mm.
seeing through the law of attraction that it's more not you're not coming from lack. I mean, we're all manifesting anyway, but we're going to be manifesting from our infinite being, where it's coming from
Mm.
wholeness and
You're
completeness. And it's
already
almost like
whole.
it's an expression of what we already are,
Mm.
effortlessness, ease, abundance, all of that is our true nature anyway. So it was just a good bridge for them. So it's been working out where they've been like booking like sessions with me. So like I'll be on the cruise ships and stuff like that. And
So
and
how
while we're
did
on the
that
boats,
work? So for prior to self-realization, if you were, looking into the manifestation thing,
yeah.
was that for you coming from the feeling like you needed to get something outside
Yeah,
of yourself?
before self-realization, that's what I was doing. I was searching for something. I was like, oh, I want to be the best version of myself, because I always felt like something was lacking. Like there's got to be more to
Mm,
life than
yeah,
just
yeah,
this,
yeah, yeah.
And I had when I was 18, I had went through cancer,
Yes, I
and so I
saw that
started
in your
question. Yeah, so I
interview.
started
Yeah.
questioning like, like what's going on? Like something's off here. It didn't feel right. And even I would look in people's eyes and stuff, and I'd look around. It's like they just had like this dead look in their eyes, or this like they're under a lot of stress, and they were like caught up in their heads.
Yeah, seeing that
And then I started
contracting.
questioning. So there's got to be more to life than this. Life's because like my intuition was telling me life's supposed to be fun. Life's supposed to be light. It's supposed to be easy,
Wow.
effortless, peaceful. Kind of like how you're displaying yourself even on this call. That peace and that effortlessness, that ease. That you've been demonstrating. That's what I saw. That's how I felt. That's how life should be. So I
And then
questioned. It's got to be.
how did that change after self-realization, the manifesting?
The manifesting, well, the manifesting, all it is just happening naturally anyway. We're all doing that, whether we
Mm.
realize it or not. It's not like, so now it's just more coming more into alignment,
Mhm.
with our true nature instead of resisting it, so you're just allowing it to happen. But do you mean as far as me like booking calls with them or like that side
No, I'm
or?
just wondering. So you were obviously looking, like you said, you were
Yeah.
looking outside of yourself for
Hmm.
something, and then I guess the manifesting thing was helping at some point because they do tell you
Yeah.
to go to, you've already got it, which is
Yeah.
wholeness,
Yeah. Yeah.
completeness. In
Yeah.
a
So how to
way,
go?
I'm just wondering what the difference was post realization.
Well, now
If
you don't feel the need. You don't feel the need
you don't feel
have
the
to.
need for it,
Yeah, you don't feel the need for it because
the
you
light,
you
the
already have
outside
it all.
is,
Like you
yeah,
don't realize that you're
priceless.
already it. Basically, what everybody's looking for in this manifestation world, what everyone's really looking for, is they want this feeling of feeling whole and complete. Okay, because they
Yeah.
feel like they're lacking, and the reason why they are is because they're identified with this separate person out here that's needy, this separate I, like you were describing, that
Mm,
wants something.
mm, mm,
But once they
mm.
turn back and realize I'm already whole and complete, and like you said, you drop into your beingness and you can feel. the wholeness and the completeness and the aliveness, that is what you are, so you don't need to go out and manifest all these other things. The happiness everyone's looking for is just turn around. It's
Mm.
inside. It's you. It's the true you is what everyone wants. And that's, what they're looking for. So that's what I'm trying to help those people to do. It seems like they're
Mhm.
coming to me, and it's just been working where I'm able to point them back and say, hey, you're
Mm.
already whole. You're already complete. It's you. You
Mhm.
are what you're looking for. And then having them drop into, like you said, that beingness and having that self-realization for themselves that they're already whole and complete. Then they don't have to do that seeking or trying to manifest this or that and all that
Mm.
effort. How would you like to just be able to feel like what's basically what they want? As soon as they get that car, as soon as they get that house, as soon as they get that
Yeah, the
relationship,
next
as soon as they
thing.
get that money,
It's a
okay,
temporary
then it's like,
fix.
what's next? What's next?
Yeah,
There's no
yeah,
satisfaction in it because anything
yeah.
you're manifesting, there's always that tinge of fear in it, like, oh, I'm going to lose the money, or how do I get that again? And so there's always
And
this
also we know
continuous
that
flow.
it's empty. Those things are ultimately
Yeah.
empty, aren't they? Because they're
And the
doomed.
only happiness they're really receiving when they get it, because sometimes when you do get that car or that whatever it is that you're trying to get, that
Mm,
house
mm.
or that perfect relationship, there's that for that couple of seconds there, and basically what all that is just the mind finally, the thoughts finally
Just
relaxing.
calm down.
It just calmed down. But
Stop
you don't
wanting.
have to
Yeah,
go all the way out there and do all that. You could just be
yeah.
right here now, and just because
But is there
basically
a
the happiness and
sense?
peace is right here in the silence without the thoughts of the mind. It's almost like cutting the identification with the mind or the separate person from the thoughts is what's naturally here. It's just our natural state is joy, is beingness, is peaceful, is happy. So it's right here. It's right here, right now. You don't need to go out there and get something. The mind is telling you that separate person because you're identified with being something separate, but you don't realize you're the wholeness. You're the infinite being. You're the effortless being. You have it all already. Everything's already here. There's no need to have to go out and get something. It'll all appear to you right here in this space of beingness. Everything that you need.
Oh, you're
Life
good
takes
at
care of life.
that.
Life takes care of life. It does.
You're very good at that. I'm like,
You got me. I don't know. It just came through
I'm like,
because, like you said, it's my direct experience. I have that,
That's
direct
so good.
experience in
It's like you've just filled me up. I thought I was
it.
already filled. It's like you just
Fill you up.
you plugged me in and I went like that. Gas
Full
tanked me
gas
up.
tank
Yeah.
is full. Let me tap it off a
Wow.
little more.
That was very good.
Oh, thanks.
And I already thought I was full. I'm like, oh, especially you did this. And I was like, oh,
I don't even know
everything
where that
just
came from.
everything cut away. It
It's
just
just in the
shows you the
flow. It's in the
spontaneous.
flow. It's just in the flow. Whatever's happening, Life
It
is
was
life
just
is
what was
fun though.
meant to be. I
I
was like, oh,
guess. I don't know.
I'm going to watch that back. It was
It's
delicious.
like
Yeah. It felt like all these strings were being cut.
yeah. And now
There
you
was
can
some,
just drop.
and then,
It's all good.
yeah. But it was like I was already here. But there was definitely some filling up of the gas tank.
Topping it off. I'm topping you off.
Yeah.
I love
So
it.
funny. I mean, really, it's just this one thing playing, isn't it?
That's all that's going on. It's fun though. It is fun.
The one thing I noticed the other day, I was walking and I was like, I could hear almost like a guided meditation going on. A little bit how I point. It was talking about the eye, and I was just watching it while I was walking. I was like, oh, look, how cute. The self is talking to itself.
It's awesome.
And then I was like, oh, so these contracted sense of self talks and this is just the self talking to itself.
Right.
So
That's all
there's
that's
the
going
self
on.
just in different modes.
Right.
I was like, oh, okay, because it's just this sense I'm the spaciousness, and there, and it's just talking to itself. What I am is talking to itself. It's not a separate self that's talking. There is these thoughts are appearing. What we've labeled thoughts, these manifestations, these little packets of consciousness that are just creating this narration for itself. And one seems to be an effortless being, and one seems to be, but ultimately, it's just the one thing talking to itself.
I know it's all just one. It's crazy when you think
It's
about it.
so funny.
It's like
And I
I'm talking
did
to
use
it's like you're a
that.
mirror. I'm talking to myself.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 definitely.
Yeah.
Space is talking to the space.
Yeah.
I am. it's just, I just find everything very interesting now.
It is.
Life is
Like,
just interested in itself,
yes, life is
in love with
lifing.
itself. What about that love bit? It's in love with itself,
Yes, it's
totally
unconditional
and
love.
absolutely in love with itself. And I never really got that sort of self-love that people talk about, in coaching and things, where you've got to love yourself for others. I always seemed a bit egoic. But now I remember this was just some one point that I was like, oh, oh, that's what self-love is. Oh my goodness. Life is love, or can be experienced of that life is just in love with itself. It's
Mm,
just total love, like you say, unconditional love.
unconditional
And do you
love.
find you have unconditional love for people that you'd never met before?
Absolutely, a
I just
stranger
fall
is
for
just
people.
like I see him. Like I was talking to this one man, and he was telling me how much he was suffering and all of that. I couldn't see him in his suffering. I only saw him like in pure love. Like I saw him as the infinite being, and I held him in health. Like I saw him healthy, joyful, whole, complete. I couldn't see him. The doctors kept telling me, "You're sick. You're this." Because I remember what he went through. Because I had went through a
Mm,
similar thing. He had cancer,
right,
but I just
right.
held him in that love, and I don't know. Something came over me, and I just said to him, "You know, you're whole. You're complete. I see you healthy. I'm holding that for you." And then the man, he started crying. Like his water started going down
Oh,
his eyes and stuff like that. And I don't know, I just think like the mind sometimes really plays on people, and you can see them and that they're suffering in their heads. And it's almost like you don't even have to say anything to anyone. You could just like just be with them, be the space for them, and like really feel that love in your heart and just let it flow and wash over someone. And then they can like energetically pick it up or something. And they feel that,
it
that
almost
sincerity that coming through like that, like you're holding them there. And it's just like this ocean of love, this infinite love is just washing over, and just,
but it's not a doing, is it? It's not a
no, there's
doing.
no doer here. There's no doer.
There's no you
Yeah.
wanting to give him love. It's
It's
just
just, it's just a
spontaneously arises.
spontaneously coming over. Like,
It almost
yes.
dissolves their suffering in a way.
Yeah. So like it just melt and you could just see the relief just
Because
from,
there's not a separate self that's saying, right, right, you need to do this, this, and this. And no, you're not really suffering. None of that is being, you're allowing that person to be who they are in that moment, completely unconditionally.
that's the beautiful
And
word you
that's
just
lovely.
used, allowing. Allowing, I love that word. You're
It's
allowing it to
a
flow
flower
through. There's no
opening.
resistance. Suffering is just resisting what is, or suffering is just identifying with being a separate, limited person that's not here, right?
Needing the moment to be another way.
Yes. Everything's
Needing
perfect
to
just the way
know.
it is. All is
But
well. There's
from a
not this.
separate self, mind is going to poke you in the eye with a stick if you tell them that.
Yeah, I mean, people listen to it, the mind goes crazy with it. But I don't know. I've come to
Yeah.
laugh. Once you see through it, like we mentioned earlier, like Santa Claus thoughts or toothpick. Once you see through it, then it becomes comical almost in a way. It's like, wow, how am I believing these thoughts in my head? They're not. They don't apply to me. There's no me here to apply to.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
like a relief in knowing that, a peace,
Oh
in
gosh,
knowing
yeah.
that, and then
Yeah.
like this calmness
That's what you
comes
want to
over
share
you.
with people.
Yeah.
That freedom.
Freedom, yeah, true
Complete.
freedom it's freedom from the character, not for the character.
Mm. We are freedom.
We're being free from that separate character. It's not that the character,
Brilliant.
the me,
Yeah.
Rob,
Yeah.
is looking for freedom. That's not what it is. What it is true freedom from the character and all the conditioning and all the thoughts and all the belief that you've had in being
Because
this
we never
separate
were
self.
the character. Yeah. Never
You
were
never
the
were the
character.
whole time. Yeah.
It's just
Never
an
happened.
experience life has.
Yep. It's just the
Yeah.
infinite being having like going back to that. It's the infinite being having a human experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you've got to go to the fundamental. And that's something I did use. If there was anything dancing, I was like, what's actual? What's actually here?
Yeah,
There's
what's
only
really happening?
one thing here.
Mhm.
It sort of brings you to ground zero. There's only one thing. That's the one thing shaping a pattern. So there is no me because I can't find a me when I look. And even the looker dissolves. There is actually nothing that could be grasped here. Yet it appears as everything.
Yeah,
It's just unfathomable, really. The mental capacity is not going to get it. because it's not an object, it's not a thing, it's what we are. It's that, it's
What
that
you
opening
are,
up.
yeah, it's what you are
We
already.
are. Yeah, so it feels like it's not apart from you. I quite often I say to people, it's not
No,
apart, it's what you
everything is whole.
are.
Yeah.
So we can't hold it up and say, I've found it, I've got my true nature. No, you already are it.
You are it. Yeah,
It's
it's no
here,
thing. Yeah.
inherent.
It's
It's what you are.
yep,
And it's this backward movement into self,
yep,
isn't it?
right
Yeah,
here.
lovely. And then all of the dancing drops. It's just this. Just
That's it.
Mm.
Mm.
Of course, if the mind looks at this, somebody can recognize it. But it's so easy to then label it. The mind will label it boring. Well, there's nothing there. And how am I going to live my life from there?
Mm.
So it's just so interesting that even if it's revealed to us, we can then just go to mental activity about it. And that takes us away again. And really, it's so simple, we miss it.
It's just
And it's just,
effort. It's just effortless. And once you go to effort, it's almost like then you're back into the mind. Once you go to the effort, if it feels like efforting, you're back in the duality. But if you just remain, if you feel the effortlessness, and then you can just soak or marinate in the peace that's here. It's no effort. Just to be, it's no effort. Just to relax here, to sit in self.
I'm so used to filling the space.
And it's okay.
Mm. And there will be action. There will be spontaneous action. I think people feel like, well, I can't just rest in being all day. That's what the mind will offer up. But of course, there is action.
Yeah,
There's just a
intuition.
mental overlay about what's already happening. All the action is already happening.
It's already happening anyway. Inspiration just moves everything. Inspired action is effortless action. It doesn't even feel
Mm.
like you're doing anything. It's just when it comes from inspiration, it's just a joyful doing, if you want to say. Really no
And the
do.
being is doing.
Yeah, the being is doing it. We're not doing anything. There's no one here to do
Yeah,
anything.
the being.
That's what it comes back to.
It
Being.
can be tricky to see. It can be tricky because the mental overlay is so quick to claim everything.
Mm.
Oh, I just remembered my bag. Well, no, your arm reached for the bag. Then the mind jumps in and says, the commentator, oh, I'm glad I remembered that. Well, you were already reaching.
It's always late to the party. It wants to take
It
credit for
is. I
everything.
have
It
seen it
comes in
very late,
after it's already occurred. It comes in and makes the comment.
but it can be tricky to see that. Um, in the morning, I often point to people to see if they can see it first thing in the morning because there's that dawning of consciousness. And then there'll be the first I thought, what am I doing today? And it's so easy to buy into that I
Mm.
and then go with the mental activity about I've got to do this, got to do that. I want to do that. Oh, damn, I didn't do that. Oh, no, no, no. Where's my, what, da, 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 da. Oh, there's the invitation. So what am I doing today? And it's just, oh, that's interesting. Just let it die. Doesn't mean there's not going to be checking of your phone or putting the hot water on or feeding the cat. All of those things are just going to happen anyway. You just don't have that constant wheel of doing, creating that contraction of a separate self through thoughts, through this constant commentary on what's happening. That's what causes the suffering. That's what causes the contraction and the sense of I'm doing it. I remember quite often I come down and I go, wow, who cleaned the kitchen? It's completely done really well as well. And I have no recollection of doing it because there's no mental overlay saying, why am I doing the kitchen? Why's everybody else watching the football and left me to do the kitchen? That's what would have happened before.
Before,
And
yeah.
now it's all
After
just
it's just,
done.
yeah, it's just already
And
done.
I'm
You don't realize.
surprised. Yeah, because I didn't
Didn't feel like you were
really
doing
notice I
anything.
was doing it. No,
Yeah.
because it's just, and do you watch your hands just move? Like I watch them, I'm like,
Yeah,
look at,
something fascinated, right? Like, wow.
yeah,
Well,
wow,
it's doing
just
it
like
all.
kids
It's doing
are,
it
young
automatically.
children.
Like breathing, movements are all happening automatically. There's no doer here doing it.
Remember, I think the first time I noticed I was putting cream on my face and I was like, oh, who's doing that? What is that? Oh my goodness. Oh, I thought I was doing it.
Yeah,
Oh, it's just happening. And
it's
then I
just
think
happening.
even like cleaning the toilet, I was like, how efficient is that hand? Just look at that move. No sense of needing to work out how to do this. It's just all automatically happening.
Automatic.
And
Everything's happening that way.
it is fascinating, but we just don't see it when we're focused in the mental commentary of it all and believing there's a me doing it.
True.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yes.
Just not needing to know anything.
It's okay not to know.
It's a relief when I say to people, you know, can you say, I'm okay, I don't need to know anything? How does that feel when you just give up the sense of needing to know anything? They're like, ah,
Relief. It's a relief.
because it's the unfolding of it. It's the revealing of it. Life reveals it all to itself. And the more we allow, the more it reveals. The more we rest back, the more it just flowers. It just unfolds for no one, for itself. But I can't say I didn't see all this in the beginning. It's still been a journey for no one.
Hmm.
It's revealing itself constantly. So mini realizations. I remember calling Amanda and going, "Are you still having like mini realizations?" She said, "Oh, great, good, okay, bye."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like it
It's
keeps
nice to have
revealing
somebody you can
itself.
check in with like that. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. I've created these small groups now, 4 to 6 people. And it seems I'm really enjoying it. It seems that for
How does it
me,
work?
this
Tell
seems
me more about it. How does it work?
so I just created a survey and put it out. I'm going to do I'd been asked actually, so it wasn't even my idea. Somebody asked me, and I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to do that, but I'll leave it with me. And sure enough, come January, the thought blossomed, the idea blossomed that I could just create because I was got people all over the place.
Right.
India, like how do you collate them all together?
Yeah, how
Yeah.
do
And
you? Good question.
yeah, well, I created a survey,
Service.
really simple. I gave them times and days in Greenwich Mean Time, days, times that we could meet, 4 to 6 people. And then I asked them, are you looking to self-realize? Are you looking to integrate self-realization? So I sort of got some, and I only put it out to people who I know, who I'd worked with. So I've got some idea of who's going in what group, some
Right.
rough idea, because some people I might have spoken to a year and a half ago.
So did you
So
find the two groups are really those that are seeking and those that want to integrate? That seems to be the two groups, is what you're saying, that you've been dealing with?
no, what I tend to do is my groups are only have people who have already been to see me.
Okay,
So I have
gotcha.
people come to see me and quite a lot self-realize, or already self-realize and just want to integrate. And then I tend to they say, great, brilliant. Now what do I do? I go,
Yeah.
uh, and I used to go, I don't know, because I didn't know what to do with them. I'd be like, you have the
Are you
ball.
like the aftercare? You mean saying David didn't do aftercare? You're the aftercare?
David didn't. Yeah. Well, I didn't really know how to apply. I didn't know they wanted a community, and I didn't know how to create that. I was like, I'll get back to you if I know what I'm doing, but this
You
is
know,
what I'm doing at this
David's
point.
doing monthly calls now. Did you
Yeah,
aware?
they're
Yeah,
really sweet.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So
So
I ended up.
tell me more about what you're doing. So you have
So I
the
created a survey, and then they've all filled it in. which was great. And then the answer, there was also, I put a question in, if you can't make any of these, what can you make? In case I could square up some of those. So I just did it on Google document.
Right.
And I don't really have any skills on the internet. And then I realized, oh, and I thought, oh, great, I've got all this information.
Right.
31 responses, brilliant. What do I do with that? And then there was a plus button. And if you press it, it puts it all into a sheet for you, all
Wow.
there. Yeah.
Technology.
I was like, ta-da, effortlessly.
Easy.
Yeah.
Effortless.
So I've currently I've just ran six, they're just finishing this week, six groups of 4 to 6 people. It's been so delicious because it's just harmonious. Like I feel like I'm hopping from each group and what I learn, because I learn at the same time.
Of
Somebody
course.
will
Yeah.
express something, just like what we did here.
Yeah.
You filled me up, and you were like, "Well, I didn't know what I was doing,"
I don't
but there
know.
was something happening there
Yeah.
that you may recognize, you may see it back. Life is constantly learning about itself. If we take
Mhm.
away the me and you, life is just learning about itself. So as the meetings go, I'm learning and then sharing it in the next group. Something will pop up and go, oh, funny, that happened in the group on Monday. Let me tell you. And so it's just this beautiful weaving of this. I mean, it is what this is, just this one tapestry with all these threads, but it's all just consciousness creating it. So we tend to, yeah, so that's what happens. And it seems to build throughout the 4 weeks. It's as if we can just keep putting people back on track, if they're wavering. They
Yeah.
can not get lost in the cul-de-sacs of YouTube,
Yeah. Right.
looking at something that maybe just takes them a bit off track. So it's a really nice just popping them back on track. Most people are now coming back for another 4 weeks, and some people are going off or they're busy. So then I'm filling in the spaces but I do tend to like to have spoken to somebody first before I pop them in a group. It's
Yeah.
just how I do it.
Yeah. It's your
Um,
system. So you're doing
yeah.
this full time. Do you work outside this, or is this like your full time
Well,
thing
I
now?
did, but it's all fallen away from me.
Oh,
Everything's
good.
fallen away. Everything. Oh
What
my
did you do
God.
before? What did you do
I was
before?
a model
Oh,
for a
wow. Okay.
long time. So I'm 57 now, and I modeled for when I was 18.
Oh,
So I
okay.
was still modeling when I spoke to David. I was still had a really active career.
Hmm.
Um, and then it all fell away.
It all dropped away, right? Now you're doing this full
Yeah,
time,
I
right?
don't fit my age group because I don't have grey hair. And just naturally, I don't have grey hair. This is all dyed, but I have brown hair. So I don't fit my age group. They want somebody in their 50s, nearly 60, to have grey hair in the world
Oh,
of commercial.
yeah.
Yeah, so I don't tick the box. Unless I
Yeah.
dye my hair grey, I don't tick the box. So it's all fallen away. So that's interesting. And I can see I do have some conditioning around charging for this. I really struggle with that. So that is interesting. I still do pick up those. So I'm learning. The first year and a half, I didn't charge, but I did find people just didn't turn up or they came eating a sandwich
Yeah,
late.
it's okay to charge. Yeah,
Well,
even David
I
talks
reached
about
out to
this, the self,
David,
yeah, yourself, the infinite being,
self-worth.
self-worth, yeah,
So I
self-worth.
did reach
Yeah.
out to David. I
Yeah.
haven't reached out to him very much at all since I spoke to him. I've never had a conversation with him, but I do text him every now and again. And I asked him, and he said, "Oh yeah, you do need to charge because people won't take you seriously."
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
they're more invested in it too. Like if they're
yeah, I
if
think
you're doing it
they're
and you're helping them,
engaged.
yeah, they're more
If
engaged with it.
somebody's paying, they're
I
more
mean, everything
engaged.
about that with myself, like if like things that I get for free, I just don't value them as much.
Yeah,
And then
quite often
it
if I
gets more of
do
your,
give
it's like,
people,
okay, I invested in it's like an investment in
yeah,
yourself. I'm
yeah,
investing in this. Okay, Colette, you have my full attention. Like, I'm all
yeah,
in. And it
yeah.
brings another
You show
whole
up, don't you? If you
vibration.
pay for it,
Yeah,
you
you
show
should,
up.
of course, you show up
It
and
is interesting,
yeah,
but that is still a sticky point for me, learning how to because I want to include everybody.
bingo, bingo.
I don't want anybody to miss out, but it just proves itself time and time again when somebody says, "Oh no, I can't afford it," and I go, "Oh, come anyway," and then they don't turn up, and I'm like,
My goodness.
so funny.
It's so funny.
Yes.
I'm working with someone else who's self-realized, and we're co-author. We're doing a book together, and then
Oh
we're rolling,
wow.
yeah, and then we're rolling out we do a Zoom calls in addition to it, like for each of the chapters, and it's all about
Oh,
like,
nice.
effortless abundance, and one of the chapters in there is about self-worth and being able to charge people and things like that. It's so funny how we're just
Mm,
talking about that,
mm.
but that's kind of
Yeah,
like
that's interesting.
what's beginning to come together is that, and that, feeling that, that you can't, that your self-worth and that you can charge for things, and just allowing abundance to come into your life, and having self-respect and that kind of thing. So it's funny how that we were just talking about that. That's
I think
just
that's a really
what's
valuable,
what's happening. Yeah,
I think that's a really valuable thing that's possibly been missing from this,
I
because,
agree.
I can tell everything's just fallen away from me
Yeah,
in that, you know, and because I feel untouched, it's okay. I'm completely untouched by it all. But then there is still the practicalities. I
yeah,
don't want to lose my house. I don't want to lose my car.
yeah, and
I
and
don't
if you're
want
so
to.
worried about that, then you're not going to be able to focus on this, and so by charging that, it gives you that freedom to be able to not have to worry about those things and then just focus on this. Yeah.
And I do
So you're
find that you
actually
can't
helping. You're
do
actually helping by doing it, by charging. You're actually
because
helping
you're in a
people.
better place.
Yeah, because you're not sitting there worried about the bills. You have to go out and get some other kind of job or back to whatever
Yeah,
you're
that's
trying to
what I
do.
did think. If I get
Yeah.
another job, then I can't actually do this.
Yeah. Think about it. It'll take away from this. So
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah, I think
you're
that's
called
really
to do
interesting.
this. So this you're on the right way. So it's just a matter
It's
of
that
just
marrying of, okay, I've recognized this and I'm untouched, but so then how does that then flower into the we're living these lives, we're in the world of duality. How does that
yeah, we're
flower
still
into?
here. Yeah, we're still having the human experience. So we still have to
Yeah, we're
pay
still
bills. We
feeding the
still got to worry
kids,
about.
we're
Yeah,
still, taking the cat to the vet.
right.
Still,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I
I'd be
charge when
interested to see
people
how
meet with
you.
me to have call. I mean, the coaching calls, you know, they
Yeah,
pay.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
And working with somebody is interesting because it doesn't happen too much in this. Um, it's quite often been seen as, the guru, the teacher,
Mm.
and I worked with Amanda quite a lot. We probably did a year and a half, maybe 2 years with Amanda.
Wow.
We did group calls together, and it was lovely because we had different angle.
Yeah.
I was very much pointing to what we are, and she was very much, let's uncover what we're not. Let's get hold of that mind. Let's rip it apart. Whereas I was
Yeah.
like, let's just lie down. So they got a bit
That's
of
great.
both.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah, so yeah, very fond of Amanda.
That's great.
Very lucky to have walked with her.
Yeah, I've interviewed with her. Um,
Oh, that was the one I watched because I reckon it popped up, obviously because I know Amanda, so it popped up, and I was like, oh,
oh,
let me watch that, and it was lovely, so good, really,
oh,
really
thanks.
good, and I absolutely loved the one you did recently. I can't remember the lady's name. And I haven't listened to her interview with David, so I'm looking forward to listening to that as well.
Okay. Yeah. Share was a share or she, yeah, share
Yes,
maybe. Yeah.
yes.
And she had a similar background.
She has the work. She does the work,
Byron,
doesn't
she
she?
does the work. Yeah. She's
I
doing
bet
that.
that's great
She
from
loves
somebody
it.
who's self-realized
Did you
as
see what
well.
she said in the interview about when she asked Byron Katie, like that last question you asked,
Yeah.
and then she was, she goes, was
Who
that
am I?
talking to, yeah, was that talking about what you truly are, your true nature? And she was
Yeah.
like, yeah. So she's almost like when she's doing these calls, it's like a natural lead in
Yeah,
to
beautiful.
realizing your
And
true nature.
yeah, and it's just this, you can just blend it, can't you? And point
Yeah.
people. Yeah, perfect. Because you might get somebody who is not necessarily aware of any of this, but they know that they want to look at their thoughts. And that was my way in, really.
Mm.
But there was always that sense of wanting the truth. There's something not quite right about this. Something,
You can sense it.
something
Yeah.
amiss. Yeah, yeah.
Something's
I
missing.
didn't know what it was, but yeah,
Mm.
it wasn't quite right.
Well, what a beautiful journey and a beautiful talk with you. I've really
Oh,
enjoyed
thank
my
you for
time with you. You're a
inviting
beautiful
me.
being, and I love what you're doing, on YouTube and social media. And I love what you're doing with the group calls. I hope you continue to do that, and you charge your worth so that you can continue to do it. And I just think
Thank you.
it's great. I could tell your passion for it. You're very talented at pointing people to this. You're a very good communicator. And I really feel like your love and your peace and your joy, how it's just emanates. And I like how you don't only have it intellectually, but you totally embody it, and you bring
Mm,
that experiential component, you know, that's really needed for people. It's not so much having it in the head, but really, seeing it for yourself, that direct experience that we kept talking about on the call. And that's really where it's at. People really experiencing for themselves, and they can really have this true peace, this true joy, this knowingness and this relief, from having to be this separate person with all the issues and problems. That really, life is meant to be fun. It's meant to be enjoyable, peaceful. This is the way it is, that we were meant to be, our infinite being. And I just love that you're doing that with people. It's the most beautiful thing you can be doing. That's what I feel in my heart, and that's why I'm
I
I'm
can feel
passionate in
that.
sharing it too. And
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
can feel your joy and your sincerity, in how you're doing it, and I just think it's beautiful, and just encouraging you to continue to do that, continue to
Thank you,
do it,
Robert.
and
I can feel that.
yep.
You can feel it from your heart. Thank you. Yeah. I think, we've all got these different ways of expressing, and you're very good at empowering people.
Mhm.
I can feel that. I feel like you're empowering me. You're giving me permission to be who I am.
I gave you your permission slip.
You did, yeah. I'm like,
I'm not doing
okay,
anything. It's
I'll step
just,
into those big boots.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
just creating the space and just the permission slip to
Yeah,
go, and
so
what you
interesting.
already know anyway. It's what you already
So
know. It's
very
just
interesting.
being revealed to you. That's all.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I think we can end there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.